I have no partner. That's another, like, it's literally lonely because there is nobody else. I also don't have any colleagues. 9 to 5ers, don't take your colleagues for granted. If you keep doing things that you can delegate, you wouldn't have the time or the energy to focus on things that will grow your business. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Timmy. If you are new here, thank you so much for choosing to press play. I hope you like it here and decide to stay by hitting the subscribe button. And if this is not your first time, welcome back. So I usually make videos about productivity, lifestyle, creativity, and I make vlogs. My vlogs are out on Sundays, and then videos like these are out on Thursdays or Fridays. So today I'm going to be talking about how running a business can be very lonely. In the past 10 to 20 years, even, I think entrepreneurship has become really cool, and it's this thing that everyone on some level actually thinks that they need to be doing because 9 to 5s just don't cut it anymore, or whatever the reasoning is behind it. I started my business right out of school. I never had a 9 to 5 job. My one and only 9 to 5 was for my NYSC. I worked at an advertising agency for a year just for my NYSC, and right after that I went for my master's, and while I was doing my master's I was planning my business. So it was never an option for me to work at a company just because that's the kind of person I am. Not that there's anything wrong with 9 to 5s. Honestly, there are a lot of advantages to having a steady job and a steady income, more importantly. So how is running a business lonely? Where do I start? First of all, even though I've been running for my business for 10 years now, it doesn't even seem like that long. I started my business in 2013 and it's 2023 now. Oh my gosh. I still feel lost. Like, I mean, obviously I am a lot more experienced. I've learned a lot along the way, but there's always that feeling of, am I doing this right, on certain things. So I definitely still feel like I don't know what I'm doing. I had to figure out a lot along the way. I had to figure out how to get suppliers, how to, sort out my operations, my taxes, my accounts, and all of that. There was a lot of trial and error, and it can be very tiring, just feeling like you don't know what you're doing and learning through hard lessons. Another way that this is hard is I have no formal training. I run a bakery in Lagos called Kiniidu, and I don't have any formal training in baking or in running a business. So I studied communication design for my first degree, and then I studied character animation. So I'm an artist, but baking was a hobby for me that became a job. So it is very tricky navigating a business. It's a lot harder than I thought it would be. Everything I know, I've learned along the way. I've had to teach myself, which can be 10 times harder than someone that went to school for 2, 3, 4 years, got a degree in baking, for example. It's not just a hobby, so you know all the things, you know all the techniques. I've learned that the hard way through teaching myself and just trial and error, really. And in running a business, there are definitely some technical things that you need to know, that you need to be taught. So I have had to look for these lessons and teach myself these things. So for most entrepreneurs that are not formally trained to be business owners or specialized in the particular field that they're working in, it's really, really difficult to figure things out on your own. The next thing is I have no partner. That's another, it's literally lonely because there is nobody else. I'm the only one. I'm making all the decisions. I get to the office and there's nobody else to rub minds with, oh, what do you think about this? What should we do next? What's the next step? Get more, someone to bounce ideas off of. I don't have that. I haven't had that for all this time, and yeah, it literally gets lonely. And then furthermore from that, I also don't have any colleagues. I visited my friend yesterday and she was telling me about the office dynamics, about the drama that was happening here and there. And then I have employees, so when I go to the office, I go to my office and I'm sitting in my office by myself. If I do go to the bakery to work on a cake or anything like that, they all keep quiet. And you know that you have this camaraderie between you when you work with colleagues. It's really fun. It's nice to go to work in the morning. They become your friends, like a family. And I don't really have that because obviously I'm their employer. So when I go into the kitchen, they all keep quiet, and then I can hear them from my office talking. So when I go there and then they all keep quiet, I'm just like, oh. I mean, I do relate with them. We play around but ultimately I'm their boss, and there's only a certain amount of playing we can do, So I do feel lonely when I go to my office and I have no colleagues. 9 to 5ers, don't take your colleagues for granted. On the flip side, there are advantages to being lonely as an entrepreneur. If you have no partner, then you have full control of your company. You get to make all the decisions. And for me, I'm a creative, so that's fantastic for me because I have a certain way that I want things to be, and I don't need to answer to anybody. I don't need to ask someone else's opinion. For example, the name of my company is Kiniyedu. When I came up with this name, most people were like, I'm not too sure, blah blah blah, but that's the name I wanted, and I just went with it. I didn't need to ask anybody's opinion. I registered that name, and that is the name. If I had a partner, I would have to say, oh, what do you think about the name? No, I don't think this is nice. What do you think of this other? And we'll have to go back and forth. So it's really nice to be able to have complete creative control and administrative control as well. So that is one advantage of running your business yourself. Also, if you have no colleagues, then there's no drama. I've heard a lot of office stories about the drama that people get themselves into, and sometimes it's like, okay, maybe I don't want that. So it's also nice to not have colleagues in that way. And if you have no formal education in your particular field and you're learning on the job, chances are that you are stronger at that craft because you have practical knowledge. Not that you don't have practical knowledge if you get formal education, but there's nothing like learning on the job. There is a lot to be said for learning from experience. You learn, and whatever the lessons are, they stick. So even though it is challenging, and when you do have your downtimes or when you do fall or fail, it's really painful, but you would never forget the lessons that you learned from that. So I've been complaining a lot. I'm going to say quickly what helps. So time helps. Like I've said, time, after you've learned something, you've done something over and over again, you get better at it. You learn as you go and you grow. Online classes, gosh, I've taken so many online classes. There are so many platforms that teach things in your particular field. I was on Craftsy. I've taken online classes on so many things. There's also YouTube. My gosh, this is such an amazing platform, and I have learned so much on YouTube. So it's just basically about deciding, I want to learn this, that looks good, I want to learn it, and then figuring out where you can learn it and practicing and being the best at it. I've also found that apps like Airtable is my savior. I love this app. It's amazing. If you're interested in finding out a bit more about Airtable and how I use it to run my business, leave a comment below and I'll do another video about that. But I run my business virtually through Airtable. I've been using this app for about 3 years now, and it's helped my team be much more organized and work much more efficiently. I would 100% recommend Airtable or any other team organizing softwares. I think there's Asana and there are a few others, but Airtable is the one I am personally in love with. So even if I don't have colleagues in my office, I have external colleagues. These are my friends that also happen to be entrepreneurs. So they're either fellow bakers or they run their own businesses, but they understand what I'm going through. So if I ever have an issue and I call them, I feel much better after I've spoken to them. I have a friend who's a baker, and God bless her. If not for her, I don't know where I would be, to be honest, because if I have a problem, I call her. If she has a problem, she calls me. So it's really good to be in a group of, to have other entrepreneurs, specifically in your field or even outside your field, that you can talk to, you can relate with, like, oh my gosh, how do I find, someone to do management in my office? How do I find an accountant? How do I do, how do I buy flour? Where do I get this? Where do you get this cheaper? Just someone or a group of people that you can count on to relate to what you're going through, because sometimes it does feel lonely. It feels like nobody understands what I'm going through. Like, oh my gosh, who do I talk to? So it's always good to have friends like that. Also, my mom is a director in my company, and she hasn't been playing an active role in my company for the past 10 years. And I don't know why it took me so long to actually ask her for help. So that's another thing, ask for help. For me, I don't know about any other entrepreneurs, but for me, I feel lonely in my business, but then I don't ask for help because I feel like it's my responsibility and it's my job to do this, and this. But there's so many roles to fill, there's too many things to do. So you really do need help. Most of the time, I'm thinking, who can I employ to do certain things? And for the most part, I've employed people to fill roles that can be filled, but the more difficult roles to fill are the ones that have to do with, for example, your money. To run a business, you should you should know exactly what is going on with your money and make sure that everything is going well. And I, in my mind, just thought nobody else can do this but me because I can't trust anybody. But then it occurred to me a couple of weeks ago that, wait a minute, my mom can help. My mom actually has experience with running a business. She has experience with managing people. She has experience with a lot of the things I'm going through. And I'm like, why do I have to do this alone? So I am so excited. Honestly, like she started helping about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it makes me feel so much better. It makes me feel, more protected, and like I have someone in my corner. Because for the longest time I felt like there were gaps in my business that I wasn't watching, and I felt bad because I'm not, catching everything. I'm sure there's something else happening at the back that I'm not aware of. But then now I have someone that I can trust 100%. With me, so it's not as lonely as it was. So it made such a huge difference, so I'm really happy about that. So just to wrap everything up, I'm going to say that whenever you do feel lonely in your business, never be afraid to admit when it gets overwhelming. If you do need help, ask for help. There's always someone that can help. I know we tend to feel like it's our responsibility, like you started the business, like you have to figure it out, but it doesn't have to be that way. If there are roles you can hire for, then hire people. If these are roles that you can't hire for, then consult with people that you trust. And don't be afraid to hear feedback, good or bad. Sometimes I will admit that I would keep things to myself because I was afraid that I would be criticized for maybe the way I'm running my business, or I'm not doing this thing right, and then someone would want to give their opinion and I wouldn't like it. But you shouldn't be afraid to hear the hard truth. And sometimes what they say, you might not agree with it, and that's fine also, but at least be open to hearing what other people have to say. Things can be really tough, especially in Lagos. Lagos is a tough place to run a business, and I'm really proud of myself. I will say I'm proud of myself for running this business for 10 years. 3 or 4 years ago, I realized that I needed to delegate. So I did hire more. So I was hiring to fill more roles, but ultimately, in terms of administration, I'm so glad that I finally decided to ask my mom to help. Sometimes when you're running a business, you think you can do everything because you physically can. So I can bake, I can decorate, I can talk to customers, I can, I can do all of these things. I need to take the orders, but I can't be the same person taking the orders, baking the cakes, decorating the cakes, boxing the cakes, ordering the boxes for the cakes, calling the delivery drivers, calling the customers back while I'm baking the next cake. So it doesn't make sense. And for the longest time, I felt like, I can do everything, But you need to realize when you've grown to a point where you need help. So if you need to hire someone to do other things so that you can free yourself up to grow the business, and this is one big thing that I've realized, is that if you do not free yourself up for growth, it won't happen. And what I mean by that is, if you keep doing things that you can delegate, you wouldn't have the time or the energy to focus on things that will grow your business. So for example, I've been stuck doing a lot of administrative work, which is not my strong point. I am a creative. I love coming up with designs, and I will say that I have fallen short on that. I don't think I'm doing the best I can do. But if I can give someone else the administrative work to do, then that frees me up to wake up in the morning and just think, how can I make my business better? And I know that that's being taken care of. So I'm using my energy to become better. If you're stuck doing something that someone else can be doing, then you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time, you're wasting your energy. Sometimes I'm thinking, can I actually afford to pay someone else? Why would I, take that amount of money and give it to somebody else? It is much better to pay someone so that you can concentrate on how to make 10 times what you're paying that person. So I am here to tell you, it is 100% worth it to pay someone else to do what you're doing right now, to focus on doing something else. My goal is to always free myself up so that I'm blank for something else. So that's the only way I can grow, is whatever I'm doing now, I'm just trying to think, how can someone else do this so that I can do something else? So I hope that this video has been helpful in some way. Leave a comment below. Let me know, are you an entrepreneur? Have you been thinking of being an entrepreneur? Are you feeling the same way that I have been feeling? And don't forget, you're not alone. There are thousands of entrepreneurs going through the exact same thing that you're going through. People say this sometimes to me, that nobody has it under control, but you just think to yourself, they look like they have it under control, but honestly, we're all good at making things look like they're under control. That's not always the truth. So know that you're not alone. There are other people that are also struggling with running their businesses. It's always good to talk about things. So find an entrepreneur to talk to today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Don't forget to leave a comment, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye.